Hello everyone. Today I want to share with you a small topic, but it will definitely be very useful in daily life. That is how to thread a needle. Here, I have a needle and thread box with full needles, thread and small sewing items. It looks very familiar, but if you open it and try it right now, I take a needle and a piece of thread, you will immediately see the difficulty. I try to thread it, but the thread keeps playing hide and seek, refusing to go inside. This is a situation that almost all of us have encountered. It seems easy, but it makes us lose patience. And to solve that problem, in this video, I will introduce to you 3 extremely effective tips for threading a needle. All are very simple, using familiar items in the house. I believe that, after watching, you will be surprised because it turns out that threading a needle is so easy. Tip number 1. Thread a needle with paintbrush line and tape. When it comes to threading a needle, most people will immediately think of specialized tools sold at tailor shops. But in fact, right at home, we can also make an extremely simple and effective needle threading assistant. That is to use the line from a paintbrush combined with a little tape. First, I prepare a familiar paintbrush, the type of brush with straight, thin, and very tough lines. Just pull out a small line, and we have the main material. In addition, prepare a roll of tape and a pair of scissors to get started. I fold the line in half so that the end forms a small circle, like a fake needle eye. Then, place this folded line on a piece of tape, making sure to leave the small circle outside. Next, fold the tape together to clamp the fishing line inside, keeping it secure and not slipping. To make the tool neater, I use scissors to cut off the excess tape underneath. So, in just a few steps, we have finished making a super simple needle threader. When using it, I just need to put the small circle of fishing line through the needle hole. Then, put the thread that needs to be threaded inside that circle. Finally, hold the needle firmly and gently pull forward, and you see, the thread will follow the fishing line and go neatly into the needle hole in a snap. No need to strain your eyes, no need to fumble anymore. What I like most about this tip is its convenience. Almost every house has a paintbrush and tape, and the method is extremely quick. In just a few minutes, we have a tool that replaces the needle threader sold in the market. Even if it takes a little extra effort, you can make a few in advance and keep them in your sewing box so you can take them out and use them when needed. Tip number 2, threading a needle with a razor. If in the first tip, we use the nylon thread of a paintbrush, in this second tip, I will guide you in a completely different way, which may sound strange but is extremely effective, using a razor. At first, you may find it a bit dangerous, but don't worry, here we only use part of the razor, and after processing it, it is completely safe. The idea of this tip is to turn half of the razor into a thread guide. Thanks to its thin, hard, and slightly elastic properties, the razor can pass through the tiny needle hole and pull the thread through easily. First, I take a new and clean razor. Use scissors to carefully cut or break the razor into 2 halves lengthwise. Once you have 2 halves, I only need to use one side. Next, to avoid danger when operating, I use scissors or small pliers to cut off the sharp blade at the edge of the razor blade. At this point, the remaining half of the razor blade will be safer, not as sharp as before. Then, I shape it by cutting a diagonal angle on the right side and cutting a little bit on the left side. Thanks to that, the tip of the razor blade becomes more pointed, making it easier to enter the needle hole. At the same time, at this sharp point, there will appear a natural concave point, like a small hook to hold the thread. Now, we start threading the needle. First, put the sharp point of the razor blade half through the needle hole. Because the razor blade is very thin, it goes through the needle hole extremely easily, much faster than trying to insert the thread directly. Next, I place the thread horizontally, then cross the thread over the sharp point of the razor blade. It is the small concave point at the tip of the razor blade that will keep the thread in place, not slipping. Finally, just slowly pull the needle forward, and immediately the thread is pulled along, neatly inserted into the needle hole. Just a few steps, but the effect is obvious. Instead of struggling to stretch your eyes to thread each thread, we only need half a processed razor blade to make threading a needle extremely simple. What I want to emphasize in this tip is creativity. A seemingly unrelated item like a razor blade, with just a little trimming, has turned into a surprisingly effective needle threading tool. Tip number 3. Thread the needle with 2 different colored threads. If the previous 2 tips used items like paintbrushes, tape, or razor blades, this third tip is much simpler. You won't need any other tools other than 2 different colored threads. And with just a little ingenuity, we can get the new thread into the needle's eye very quickly. First, I prepared 2 threads, one orange and one blue. After having the orange thread in the needle, I pulled it out a moderate length, then split the orange thread into 2 small branches on both sides. Next, I placed the blue thread horizontally in the middle of the orange thread. Now, I used the right orange thread to cross it upside down, tightly wrapping it around the blue thread 2 to 3 times. This action helps the green thread stay in place and not fall out. Then, I continue to use this orange thread, wrapping it around the needle about 5 to 7 times. This is an important step because these loops will create friction, helping the orange thread to guide the green thread through the needle's eye when pulled. Once it's wrapped enough, I hold the needle firmly in my right hand, then use my left hand to firmly pull the orange thread. Immediately, the orange thread will slip out of the needle, and thanks to the friction from the loops, the green thread will be pulled along, neatly entering the needle's eye in the blink of an eye. This trick sounds complicated, but when you try it once, you will find it very interesting. It's like a knotting trick in sewing, using the thread itself to guide a new thread. This method is especially useful when you don't have any supporting tools on hand. Just add a different colored thread, and you can successfully thread it. What I like about tip number 3 is the creativity and flexibility. Instead of relying on external objects, with just 2 regular threads, we can make the difficult task of threading a needle much easier. So I have just shared with you 3 extremely simple tips for threading a needle. From using paintbrush wire and tape, being creative with a razor blade, to cleverly using 2 different colored threads. All are very easy to do, save time, and will definitely help you no longer fumble every time you need to thread a needle. Hopefully, these little tips will be useful for you in your daily life. If you find the video interesting, don't forget to leave a comment, click like and subscribe to the channel to support me to have more motivation to share more interesting DIY tips. Thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next videos.